remember running down to my grandmother's house. She also was a devout Catholic. I remember her to this day with the TV on, walking into her house like my brother and I would after every day after school, and hearing her cry and holding her rosary in front of the TV. Remember it like yesterday. That day stood still for me in my life. Students, the 60s were turbulent years in America. You haven't seen protesting till you saw it in the 60s. This was the beginning of it. A few days later, a 5th grade student like I was, watching TV, we didn't have school, witnessed the first time ever that somebody else was murdered on live TV. When Lee Harvey Oswald, the suspected gunman, was gunned down in the basement garage level in front of our eyes. Some of you probably remember that. This was the beginning of an incredible time in American history. Now remember when I told you Kennedy was here just 2 weeks before that? He's walking up by the Custis Lee house, right up by the flagpole, and he makes this statement. He said, "Guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is the most beautiful spot overlooking the most powerful country, or the capital of the greatest nation." He said this: "I could spend the rest of my life right here." That statement, heard by his wife, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, and some of the groundskeepers, was the chief reason why his remains were buried just a few feet, about 75 feet away from where he made that statement on November 11th, 1963. 5 years later, guys, 5 years, 1968, my sister was a high school senior, coming to Washington D.C. just like you guys made your way up from Florida. She had left Wisconsin on motor coach to come out to Washington D.C. Los Angeles, California. Robert Kennedy, his younger brother, in his attempt for the presidential bid, was assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan, which, by the way, just a few weeks ago was trying to get out on parole. Did you all notice? Did you all see that? He was trying to get out on parole again. Obviously, we did not grant him parole. The state of California did not grant him parole, and still remains incarcerated. 14th Street in Washington D.C. We were on that street a little bit yesterday. After Robert Kennedy's assassination, was a sign of protesting as well. We had left some of the issues of John F. Kennedy, and we are now in the height of civil disobedience because of the Civil Rights Acts. It's a mess in Washington, D.C. Students, just a few months later, Martin Luther King speaks his last message here in Washington, D.C. at the National Cathedral before he goes to Memphis, Tennessee. He's assassinated as well. This turbulent 60s were amazing things to live through. I grew up just a heartbeat away from Madison, state of Madison, capital of Wisconsin, where next to Berkeley, California, the protesting was amazing, unbelievable. I was eyewitness to a lot of it. I'd go down there as a high school person and see some of this stuff going on in the 1960s. And it was quite amazing to see all this stuff that happened in the 60s and the 70s. So here we have John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and just a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, their older brother, Edward Kennedy, senator from the state of Massachusetts, was buried here as well. Now, when Robert Kennedy passed away, he had written a last will and testament And to be, his criteria for burial was that he be buried in Massachusetts soil, he'd be buried near running water. There was a river in the gravesite he had chosen, and that his marker be a simple wood cross. He never wanted to outdo his older brother, John F. Kennedy. Always looked upon him as a hero. Well, he's buried here. There's no river here, is there? This is not Massachusetts, is it? So the simple thing was the white cross, the white wood cross, which, by the way, was not government issue. It was at the time the only wood cross in the cemetery. So what they did was they made a fountain to echo the running water of a river. And the last thing they did was they went to Massachusetts and brought dirt and soil back and hollowed out the area where Robert F. Kennedy is laid to rest. So he's buried in Massachusetts soil, near the echoes of a river, with a simple white cross marking his remains.